heart of a quaint town nestled amid rolling green hills, there lived a wise old philosophy professor whose teachings were as captivating as they were unconventional. Professor Morrison had dedicated his life to imparting wisdom and helping his students understand the deeper meaning behind life's twists and turns. One sunny spring day, Professor Morrison decided to pay a visit to the local primary school, bringing with him not just his extensive knowledge, but also a touch of magic. As he entered the cheerful classroom, adorned with the children's colorful artwork, their eyes lit up with excitement. What could this renowned professor have in store for them? With a mischievous glint in his eye, Professor Morrison revealed a large, empty glass jar cradled carefully under his arm. The children leaned forward with curiosity, eager to uncover the mystery that lay within the ordinary jar. With a dramatic flourish, the professor placed the jar gently on the desk, its clear surface gleaming in the warm sunlight streaming through the windows. From beneath the desk, he produced a small burlap sack filled with hefty stones, each one as large and heavy as a clenched fist. With great care, he began to place them one by one into the jar, the stones clinking musically against the smooth glass. When no more stones would fit, Professor Morrison turned to the class, his eyes alight with intrigue. In a hushed voice, he posed a question that hung in the air like a tantalizing puzzle. Is this jar full? The children exchanged puzzled looks, furrowing their brows in concentration. After some thought, they nodded confidently, convinced beyond a doubt that no more stones could possibly fit inside the jam-packed jar. But the wise professor had other plans to unfurl. With a knowing grin, he reached for a small canvas bag and withdrew several handfuls of tiny pebbles, pouring them into the jar. The pebbles quickly nestled snugly between the larger stones, filling any gaps left behind with ease. Again, in a tone of mystery, he posed the same question. Is the jar full now? Some of the students hesitated, unsure of their answer this time. The jar certainly looked full, but they had thought that before. After a few moments, they nodded hesitantly in agreement, somewhat convinced that the jar had finally reached its capacity. Yet Professor Morrison wasn't done yet. With an amused twinkle in his eye, he held up a bag of fine sand, gently pouring the grains into the jar until they filled every nook and cranny between the stones and pebbles. Now, children, is the jar full? He inquired, his voice rich with playful amusement. The students shifted uncertainly, doubtful of their previous conclusions. The jar had seemed full twice already, but more had fit each time. They were quickly realizing they couldn't be certain if the jar was truly full or not. Professor Morrison smiled knowingly, recognizing their perceptiveness. For his final act, the professor reached for a gleaming silver pitcher and poured water slowly into the jar until it reached the brim, drops cascading down the sides like miniature waterfalls. Finally, with satisfaction, he declared, "Now, the jar is truly full." The children gazed at the jar in wonder, marveling at how much it could hold. As their curiosity hung tangibly in the air, Professor Morrison began to unravel the poignant metaphor behind his lesson. This jar, he explained, his voice brimming with insight, represents your life. The large stones are the most important things: your health, your family, your closest friends. They form the foundation that everything else is built upon. The pebbles represent the things in life that matter, but are not essential. Your job, your possessions, your hobbies. The sand shows that there are always little annoyances that take up space in your life. But what about the water? Piped up a little girl from the back of the classroom, her eyes shining with inquisitiveness. Professor Morrison smiled warmly. "Ah, the water," he replied, his voice full of wisdom. "That represents the moments of joy, love, and pure happiness we experience. No matter how busy or full your life seems, there are always opportunities to fill your life with moments of meaning, if you make room for them." The children sat with this lesson, sensing the profound truth behind the professor's simple metaphor. From then on, whenever challenges arose, they would remember the jar filled with stones, pebbles, sand, and water, and the valuable lesson within. Professor Morrison's visit had filled their young minds with much more than ordinary stones or water. It had given them a new perspective on living life to the fullest. In the days that followed, the children found themselves thinking back to Professor Morrison's lesson again and again. When they felt overwhelmed by schoolwork and activities, they remembered the pebbles and sand taking up space in the jar. They learned to prioritize what was most important. When times were difficult and they felt alone or scared, they pictured the large stones representing family and friends. They remembered to turn to loved ones for support. And when life felt mundane, they imagined the shimmering water, filling the cracks with moments of joy. They made time for simple pleasures, dancing in the rain, creating art, or watching the sunset. Bit by bit, the jar's message took root in their hearts. Years later, many of those students pursued careers spreading compassion, wisdom, and wonder to others. They became teachers, counselors, poets, and activists. And if you asked them why, they would often reminisce about the professor with the jar who taught them the meaning of a life well lived. His lesson had resonated deeply, lighting a spark that still guided them today. Professor Morrison impacted those young lives far more profoundly than he realized. Though he eventually retired, his legacy lived on through them, and the timeless message of the jar, a reminder to fill our lives with things of true meaning and create space for what matters most. Until next time, stay strong, stay stoic, and keep striving for the best version of yourself. If you found this insight valuable, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, keep growing and stay stoic.